Hey everybody, thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is Rami Salame, and in today's video, we're gonna be going over the 10 common mistakes that I see new sellers doing on Amazon FBA consistently. To give you a little bit of background, I have coached over 100 people ranging from completely new sellers to bigger corporate companies on how to sell on Amazon FBA. So that being said, I'm gonna go over the 10 mistakes that I see consistently happening, and I hope you get some value out of it. And if you do, please give this video a like and leave a comment down below if you have any questions that you'd like me to expand on further. But with that being said, let's just jump right into it. So my number one mistake that I see consistently happening, as well as happened to myself numerous times, even happened to me last year, is when you get so emotionally invested with a product that it makes you break the rules. And what I mean by that is that when you're trying to figure out if a product is good or bad to launch on Amazon, there are some key performing indicators, some numbers, some data that you are gonna truly follow. And if you get so emotionally invested that when you see a data point not look right to you, but you're like, you know what, like everything else looks so great, I've emotionally invested so much time into this that I still wanna go into it, it creates a very slippery slope for you and it likely will not turn out well. So I cannot stress this enough. It is completely normal and it's human nature to get emotionally involved with your product. But if the data and the numbers do not truly match up, please do not go into it. It literally costed me $10,000 last year alone because I got emotionally involved with a product that I wanted to get into that I knew was too competitive. I knew the data did not match up, but I did so much work into it. I was just like, you know what? I've been selling long enough. I should be able to still make this work. Guess what? I wasn't, and I took the 10K hit, but it was a lesson learned and I am okay with it and I'm happy to share that with you all. So please, again, make sure that you are still making sure the data still follows. And then if you're emotionally attached to it, beautiful, that's amazing, that's what you want to happen. But just don't let it get to the point that it will allow you to break the data points that you need to follow. And I know in this video, I'm not going over the data points that I look for, but if that is something you're interested in, just leave it in the comments down below and I'll make sure I'll make a video on that in the future. Now, number two is going to be all about product photography. I cannot stress this enough. Beyond reviews, the thing that causes your listing to convert to a sale for your product is going to be the photography on that listing. So you want to make absolute certainty that you have 7 high quality photos on your listing that includes white background photos, infographic photos, as well as lifestyle photos. This is a mistake that I did for my first 2 products, and honestly, it caused my listing to not convert well for 18 months. So my first year and a half of my first 2 products, they rarely converted to a sale. But then when I took the time and the money to change all the photos on both listings, out of nowhere, my sales doubled, and now it's gone to the point where it's tripled from when I first launched it back in 2017. So I know firsthand that product photography is huge, but beyond that, it is a consistent trend I see across the board. Listings that don't have stellar photography against their own competition rarely perform as well. So you really wanna make sure that once again, you are focusing a lot of time and a lot of money into the photography of your listing, simply due to the fact it's one of the most important factors. So just making sure you're not shortchanging that and you're optimizing your listing in total is definitely a mistake that I see consistently happening, and I just want to make sure you do not fall into that trap. And then number 3 really does bounce off of number 2, which basically is about having a review game plan. Right? So just like I said, reviews are the number one thing that converts to a sale because that's what makes people click on the listing in the first place. Just like when you search any sort of product on Amazon, just like I do, we typically go to the listing with the most amount of reviews first. So you want to make sure that over time you are building your reviews on your listing, and you can do that without breaking Amazon's terms of services. Right? A lot of people think that you can't reach out for reviews anymore and all that stuff. You definitely can't say, hey, customer who bought my product, give me a 5-star review. You can't do that anymore. But when an order is placed, that when somebody buys your order, you can actually go to that and request a review button on Amazon's actual Seller Central. I'll post like a little, B-roll footage of me doing that. And when you do that, Amazon will actually send out an email to them asking them for honest feedback. Now, there are a lot of systems that you can actually download to do this automatically, and you can also have email funnels that send them one email so it doesn't break Amazon's terms of services. But that's like that can be a whole video in itself. So I'm gonna link an article by Jungle Scout down below that really explains how you can get reviews on your listing on Amazon FBA in 2021, again, without breaking Amazon's terms of services. And I think that's very important, and it is something you definitely should have a game plan for right off the bat. Now, number 4 can be a little bit tricky because that's all about seasonality. Now, obvious examples of seasonal products would be like a Christmas tree, right? That's only gonna be bought late November and December. However, there are a lot of seasonal products that aren't obvious right off the bat. And I see a lot of sellers, searching a product and it's like, it looks amazing, it's not that competitive. They source a product, they get into Amazon just to realize there is no more demand. And the reason why this is so important to understand is that long-term storage fees are super expensive and it can ruin all profitability and cost you a lot of money. So I really do not want you to get into a seasonal product until you're a little bit more of a seasoned Amazon seller, you understand how Amazon works, because you can definitely be very successful with seasonal products, but you have to inventory manage enough properly to making sure that you aren't going to be paying a lot in storage and just setting up timing right for seasonal products. So I'm going to give you an example of a product that I almost went into because when I first searched it was absolutely amazing and I didn't realize it was actually seasonal. And those are pine wood derby weights. So when I searched it, it was like January, February time and the numbers looked absolutely stunning. It was like mind-blowing to me that it wasn't more competitive. And just as I was starting to reach out to manufacturers, I realized that it was only in demand because it was during the Pinewood Derby season. But long story short, after I realized that it was super seasonal, I just ditched it. And then when I searched the data, later, there's like just a huge dip in demand. And so I'm very thankful that I caught that. And the way that I was able to catch that is actually utilizing Google Trends. So you can search keywords into Google Trends and it'll actually show you the demand throughout the year of that keyword being searched. So if I typed in derby weights, I will actually show a little B-roll footage of me doing that. You'll see automatically that there's only demand during a certain chunk of the year and then it dies out. And it's like that for a lot of products. So it's really important for you to make sure that before you actually get into a product, you want to search the main keywords for that product and just make sure the demand is very consistent, unless you are going into it knowing it's seasonal and you are going to take on that challenge to making that successful. I cannot stress it enough. You can absolutely be successful with a seasonal product, but just make sure that you know before you're getting into it that it is a seasonal product. Now, number 5 is actually solved the same way as number 4, which is using Google Trends. Number 5 is making sure you're not getting into trendy items. So the first example of a trendy item that comes to my mind is definitely the fidget spinner. That was the big one that everyone really tried jumping on when it first got released and it really popped off. People made like tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in months' time off of the fidget spinner. And can you make a lot of money off trendy items? Sure. Is it long-term? Is it scary? Are you taking a huge risk? Yes. And my overall recommendation that if you're getting into a hyper trendy item, you really, really, really want to stay away from them. Just because, again, you can make a lot of money off of it, don't get me wrong, but you are taking a huge risk, and it is something that I think you should leave it up to, something you should consider when you're more of a seasoned seller and you can spot those trends and maybe order just enough to where it's not gonna hurt you long term, you can sell through. And a recent example of this is actually those no-touch tools. A buddy of mine, with everything going on in 2020, a buddy of mine reached out to me back in like April, I wanna say April or May, and was like, dude, look at this product. It looks awesome. It's selling extremely well on Amazon and there's like nobody selling it. It's gonna do very well. But the second I looked at it, I'm like, hey, this is gonna be like a hyper trendy product. This is gonna be super saturated. I bet there's like 100 sellers being shipped into Amazon's fulfillment centers right now. No, thank you. And if you search, no touch tool now, there's like literally hundreds, if not thousands of listings for it. So I'm very thankful I did not move on it. I didn't have any plans on it because I was able to catch it was trendy. So again, it's not necessarily something you shouldn't ever do. It's not something that I would recommend. And it is something that I do see a lot of people struggle with when they do get into Amazon and it ends up not getting any sales because the trend died out. And again, you can use Google Trends to solve this issue, search the main keyword, and if you just see a huge spike in search volume and then just a decline, like a dip, it's a trendy product, it's something super seasonal even, so you wanna actually stay away from it and it's not something you wanna do overall. Now, number 6, I'm not gonna lie, pulls on my heartstrings a little bit, and that's making sure that you don't get into a gated or restricted product on Amazon. For whatever reason, Amazon's algorithm does not always catch that you're actually launching a gated or restricted product until it actually reaches the Amazon warehouse or after you sell a few products. So you really want to make sure that the product you're getting into is not gated or restricted in any way, or if it is, you want to make sure you get past those gates or those restrictions. And why this is important is that if you do end up launching a gated product, your listing will then be suppressed and you'll have all this inventory just stranded and you'll still be paying a lot of fees for it until you get ungated or have to remove the inventory. So regardless, it's just a situation you don't want to get into, and there's a simple way to solve this. In your Amazon Seller Central, if you go into the added products category and you type in the ASINs, which is the product identifier of the products that are related to the type of product you want to launch, you can actually see if there's any restrictions on the product itself. I'm going to show a couple of ASINs now that have no limitations, no restrictions, but then I'm going to show another product that's in, let's say, the topical category, as well as the automotive category, that I know both have gates in. So if you want to launch products that are similar or in this category, you need to make sure that before you launch it and before you send it into Amazon, that you get ungated. Now, some gates are very easy to get over, such as the automotive gate. I know that's not super difficult to get ungated in, but there are others that are extremely difficult to get ungated in, so it's not something you even want to get into until you 100% are certain or you have the money behind it to get ungated in it. So it's funny, so far it seems that every 2 mistakes kind of correlates to the last, so it's fitting that number 7 does relate to number 6, and number 7 is about trademark and patent issues. You want to make absolutely certain that your product keyword that you're getting into is not trademarked, the main product keyword, and beyond that, you want to make sure the product itself does not have any patents on there, right? That's a very scary situation to be in, and I know that this can be a little bit confusing because at the end of the day, if you see a lot of products and a lot of different listings selling the product, you're like, how is this patented? How is this trademarked? But at the end of the day, you'll be surprised at how many listings can fly under the radar, but it will eventually get caught. So you definitely do not want to get involved in that, and you want to do the due diligence of doing this simple search on the USPTO trademark search. That will find any live trademarks, and then doing a Google patent search. Those two are completely free tools. I'll leave links down below for you to use them, and it'll give you the peace of mind that the product you're not getting into isn't trademarked, it's not patented. And believe it or not, I actually went through an intellectual property issue and I almost got sued in 2018, purely because I was an idiot. A product I wanted to get into, I needed to make a label to it, and I gave my graphic designer a similar label from a competitor and said, hey, I want a label made like this because I really like their look, but it looked too similar and I okayed it. And then once I launched my product, they're like, dude, you can't do that. You're infringing my intellectual property. I didn't use any of their words. I didn't use any of their names or trademarks, but at the end of the day, my label did look similar to theirs. But after speaking with them, and specifically their lawyer, they understood that it was just a simple mistake. I changed my label, and thankfully I ran into no issues. But again, you really, really want to make sure that you're not running into any trademark or patent issues. And if you do catch that, you absolutely want to stay away from that product. Number 8 is something I see a lot of new sellers forget about, and that's having some sort of PPC budget. That's the pay-per-click advertising budget that you're going to be utilizing to have sponsored ads for your listing, and it is especially important to have when you're first launching. Because basically, it's more than likely that the sales you're going to be getting from your sponsored ads are not going to cover your PPC, or maybe they'll just break even, because you're going to be experimenting with a lot of different campaigns. So it's important to have some money set aside just in case if your sales does not cover the PPC that you're actually going to be utilizing. This is a total ballpark number, but I like to set aside anywhere from $500 to $1,000 for a PPC launch for my products. So just having that, just in case if it's needed, it is very important, just because you don't want to be stopping a product launch simply due to the fact that you don't have the money to launch it through a pay-per-click advertising campaign or product giveaways. You're going to need some money for that. So I think it is very important to kind of bring up and just making sure that when you are launching a product, when you are getting into a product, that you are accounting for that dollar amount. Number 9 is inventory management. And let me tell you, I still kind of suck at this, but I am getting better. Making sure you have some sort of process and some sort of procedure to continually get better at inventory management is super important, especially right off the beginning, because it can get complicated to know, hey, when do I need to reorder? How many units do I need to order? How many sales am I actually making a month? How many units am I selling a month? These are very, very important questions for you to ask yourself. And once you start getting that data, you want to write everything out, put it into a spreadsheet so you consistently know, hey, these are the average amount of units I sell every single month. And once I hit this amount of units in inventory, I need to make sure I reorder because it takes this amount of time from start to finish to get inventory into Amazon. Now, I know that can be very confusing in the beginning, but once you figure out how long it takes your manufacturer to make the product, how long it takes to ship the product into the United States, and then how long it takes for Amazon to scan that inventory, you'll know your total lead time. And once you figure out your total lead time times the amount of units you sell for that amount of lead time, you'll know when you have to reorder. So as long as you write everything out and making sure you're making that a priority once you start selling, that is super important and very valuable information for your business. It's something I didn't do for my first 2 years on Amazon, but now it is like a very, very big priority for me. And it's something I see a lot of new sellers not focusing on at all in the beginning, but it is super important. And Amazon gives you all this information in the business report section. I'll put some B-roll footage of that, but utilizing that resource and putting it all to a spreadsheet will be very valuable for you long-term. Now, finally, number 10 is about production inspections. I see a lot of new sellers forgetting about this as well, because basically when you start a production order for your product with your manufacturer, typically they ask for a 30% deposit to begin the production order. Once they've completed this production order, they're gonna say, hey, the order is complete, please send 70% payment. But before you wanna make that 70% payment, you wanna make sure you actually get a production inspection done by a third party. There are tons of inspectors if you're getting your product made in China, in India, in the United States, wherever you're getting it made. If you just type in production inspection, this country, you will find a ton that you can reach out to, and it's actually fairly cost effective. Most of my products are made in China, so the ones that I do, I typically pay anywhere from $150 to $200 for a production inspection, and they actually hop on a live stream with me and we go through the production order. They typically go through a sample amount, let's say maybe 20% of the entire production, but as long as that passes inspection, that is when you actually make the 70% payment. But hypothetically, if the batch was actually bad, because the amount of times that I've actually got a sample from a manufacturer and everything was absolutely amazing, but then the production order just ended up sucking, it's happened at least twice for me now. So it is very important for you to do this, even if the sample that you get just looks immaculate, just simply due to the fact that once you get into production scale, sometimes things can get slipped and a lot of products can just be wrong, and you don't want to send that inventory into Amazon and get a lot of negative reviews, and it just puts you in a very bad situation when a $150, $200 production inspector can solve that whole issue. Plus, it's cool that you actually get to see all the products like all together. I definitely remember vividly the first time I did a production inspection thinking it was super awesome. And hypothetically, if it doesn't pass, a lot of times I tell the manufacturer, hey, you have to replace all the bad pieces, and then you have to pay for the production inspection for the second time because this was not my fault. Typically, after some negotiation and some back and forth, they do eventually do this. They will give you pushback, but you need to try to do that because that's their fault. And I do recommend you putting this into the contract, like the purchase invoice that you're gonna be doing with the manufacturer. So kind of mention like, hey, we are gonna do a production inspection and you do have to pay for a second production inspection as well as replace any faulty items if it does not pass. And as long as that's kind of spoken about, typically I don't get that much pushback and they usually agree to it eventually. But thankfully it's not something I've ran into. Well, I've only ran into it twice, but again, it definitely was a big deal. And I can't imagine if I actually did send that inventory into Amazon before I did that inspection. Wow, this actually took a lot longer to record than I actually anticipated. So I really hope you all enjoyed this. Please give this video a like, please subscribe to my channel, and leave any comments down below if you have anything you truly want me to go over. I know I've been releasing a lot of Amazon FBA stuff recently, and some of you may have subscribed to this channel for the new home real estate stuff, but this is just a part of my life. I kind of balance everything, and I really want to make sure that this channel is around everything personal finance and everything I do. But again, I cannot stress it enough. If you have any questions, please leave it down below, and I hope you have a great day.